Hi everyone, welcome to Vibe Fashion's YouTube channel. Thank you for clicking on this video. If this is your first time on my channel, please kindly hit on the subscribe button to subscribe and also put on your notification bell so that you get notified once I post a new video. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. So in today's video, we're going to be learning how to make this straight gown with Armhole Princess Bustier. And the Armhole Princess Bustier, at the upper part, it has a yoke, but this yoke was not attached to the neckline. It came all the way from the waistline. I hope this is what you're interested in learning. Kindly stay tuned while we get right into the tutorial. Thank you. So here are the measurements we need to achieve this gown. I'll be drafting directly on my fabric and I'll be drafting the down part first. It's always advisable to draft the biggest part first so that you can manage your fabric. I am using 3 yards of fabric to achieve the staff. So to draft the down part, first you put into consideration the hip measurement, which is the biggest. Our hip divided by 4, that's 9.5 plus 2.5 inches. I need 2 inches for my sewing allowance and half inch for turning my lining. So that is why I'm working with 2.5, and that will give me 12 inches in all. So I'll cut out my 12 inches down straight. I'll also be drafting for both front and back. That's the front part of the skirt and the back part of the skirt. The back part is going to be wider by 1.5 inches, which will be for the zip allowance. So I'll cut that out and show us the next thing to do. So I've cut out my fabric using the biggest part of the down part I'm working with, which is the hip. So you can see that here I have my front piece and then this is the back piece. You realize that the back piece is wider by 1.5 inches, which is going to be for my zip allowance. So first we're going to enter our vertical measurements. So I'm going to draw the starting line, which will serve as the waistline. So here's our waistline. Remember that this is a gown, so we have a half length. The upper part, a half length is 16 inches. So 16 inches, all my measurements will be starting from 15.5. A half length is 16 inches. I'll be using half inch to join the skirt to the upper bodice, which is the princess armhole that. So I'm placing my tape from minus 15.5. So now from this waistline here, I'm going to mark her hip point, and her hip is 24.5, and then the knee line is 38 inches. And then the full length is 58 inches, and then plus my hemming allowance of 2 inches. So just go ahead and straighten out my lines. You want to make sure that you transfer the markings to get to the back piece here. So here's our center front and here's the center back. So all our measurements will be starting from the center front. Remember that this is just for our zip allowance. So all measurements will start from the center front, which is this point. So now enter quarter of the waist measurement plus my sewing allowance and then plus that. So quarter of the waist measurement here is 7.5 plus my sewing allowance. I said I'm using 2.5 because I'll be using half inch to turn my lining. So you can feel free to use your 2 inches or 1.5. So here my 2.5, and then I'll add 1 inch for that. So having done that, on the hip line, I'll enter quarter of the hip measurement plus my 2.5. Then on the knee line, whatever I have on the hip line determines what you'll be using on the knee line. So here I have a total of 12 inches. I'll subtract 1.5 from it, or 2 inches, depending on how tight fitting you want it to be on the knee. So in this case, I'm going to be subtracting 2 inches from that. So I have a total of 12 here. So when I subtract 2 inches, I'll be left with 10 inches. So I'm going to bring that 10 inches here. And then I'll bring that same 10 inches down to the hemline here. So once I've done that, now it's time for me to connect my markings. So now we have our front piece. We're going to have some alterations for our back piece. But before we do that now, on the waist in front, I'll be coming down by 3/4 of an inch to achieve the waist sloper. Our waist is not straight, so this depends on the size. So sometimes if the person is smaller, this is a waist 30. So if you're working with maybe let's say waist 28, you can do half inch. If you're working with the plus size that it's a waist 35, you can do 1 inch. So here you can see that I'm using 3/4 of an inch to achieve my waist sloper. And take note that this is on our front piece. So I came down by 3/4 of an inch from the center front. I'm going to connect it to the actual measurement. That's not to my sewing allowance. So I just connect it this way. So now this is it for our front piece. So to alter our back piece, I'm going to be using another color of chalk so that we can see it more clearer. So for the back here, you can see that I have my 1.5 inches for our zip allowance. I'll be taking away half inch from here. This is to eliminate zipper bulge at the back of our gown. So because our back is not straight, so you don't want to, this is the butt area. This part is more inward, which is around the upper part of the hip, that's the waistline, so that it doesn't bulge around the back side. So I reduced it, I removed half inch, which will be to take care of the zipper bulge. So now this is the hip line. I'll come down to the knee line here. On this knee line, remember I have 1.5 inches. I will take away 1 inch from that measurement. By taking away 1 inch from the zipper measurement, I'll be left with half inch. Can you see that? So I'll be left with half inch. I took away 1 inch from our zip allowance. I'll bring it down here also. I'll take away that same 1 inch so that I can have the bum illusion. You want the butt to come out well, to have that nice fitting at the back. Remember that we're not straight at the back. So you can see that I have half inch here. So I'm just going to bring it now to the hip line. And then I'll connect the hip to this half inch mark I have here. So can you see what the center back looks like? It looks like there's a bump around that. That's our bum is around there. It's not straight at the back. Okay. So having taken away that 1 inch, I'm going to come back here to replace it. If you don't replace it, you're going to have a shortage. This skirt will be too tight and the person will not be able to walk. Remember that I'm taking away 1 inch and this is reflecting on both sides. So that's about 2 inches, which is going to cause tightness around there. So now the same 1 inch I removed on the knee line, I will bring it back to this side. Take note that this is for the back. So I'll bring it back to this side, 1 inch, and I'll also bring it back to the side on the hem, which is also 1 inch. So now this is me going ahead to connect. So can you see that? So I returned back the 1 inch here. So of course I will zerize at the hip line. I'll finish up at the hip line just like I finished up at the hip line for the center back. So can you see we returned our 1 inch here. Okay, so that is it for our side back. So this is for you to achieve that nice fit around the butt area. So now what we'll be doing, as you can see that the back is actually bigger than the front. And remember that the front is the one with the white markings, the back is the one with the orange marking. So what we'll go ahead and do now, I'll go ahead and cut out the zipper bulge here. Remember that when we entered our measurement, our back was sitting under the front. So every other measurement has been entered. This is just a very easy way of drafting both front and back together because all our measurements are now intact. Can you see that this part is out? So this is what our center back looks like. It is not straight because our bum bum is not straight at the back. So now we'll come this way and trim out the side seam. I'll be cutting on the back marking first because the back is bigger than the front. So this is me cutting on my orange marking. So now I'll go ahead and trim this, my starting line. So after trimming my starting line, we'll notch the zip allowance point. This is to indicate that this is the center back and this is the side back. You don't want to forget so that you don't interchange them. So now I can now take out my back piece. So you can see I have my two back pieces, and then I'll go ahead and trim my front properly to achieve my actual front. So now I'm trimming out the waist sloper, and then here I'm actually cutting on the side marking now. So this is the actual measurement for the front. Can you see? So now our front is ready and it is intact. So let's place them together so that we can see. You see that this is our waist sloper. So you see the front is lower than the back. So that's the difference of that 3/4 of an inch. So now this is me placing them side by side because we're going to be sewing them this way. Can you see what is happening? So you can see that our 1.5 inches has shown up back. So, but you can see that it has that curve here. It's not straight, so that the skirt doesn't just look straight at the back. So our down parts are ready. All we need to do now is to cut our lining. I'll be cutting my lining 2 inches shorter because this is what my hemming allowance is, 2 inches difference. So I'll go ahead and notch this point so that to indicate that this is where the lining will stop, to be 2 inches shorter than the main fabric. So I'll cut out the lining and show us how to draft the upper part. So I've cut out our lining and it is 2 inches short. So now it's time for us to draft the, the upper bodies. So first here now, I have my starting line, which is the shoulder line. Next is to enter the bust point. So bust point is 10.5. On the bust point is 13.5. Our half length is 16 plus half inch, that is 16.5. I'll straighten out my lines. So now we have our points. On the shoulder line, I'll mark 3 inches here, 8 inches to get my shoulder slant. So now we have our shoulder slant. Then I'll go ahead and enter half of our shoulder measurement plus half inch for joining the sleeve. So which is this point now. So that's 8 plus half inch. So now we'll go ahead and enter the armhole measurement. Our armhole is, our bust is 37 inches. So 37 divided by 6 plus 1.5 will give you our armhole, which is 7.5. So I'm going to be using 7.5. So here I have my 7.5, which is the chest line. And then I'll bring the same shoulder measurement plus half inch in order to achieve a straight line. So can you see? So this is now my straight line. So having done that, I'll get the midpoint of the armhole by folding my tape into two like this. So here's the midpoint of the armhole. I'll go in by 3/4 of an inch from this midpoint. And then I'll bring it back to the shoulder tip like this. And then to curve the armhole, I'll bring the bust measurement. The quarter of her bust measurement is 9 and 3/4. 9 1/4, sorry. So I'll curve the armhole to this point, like this. So having done this now, we want to treat this part. So we'll come here and enter the nipple to nipple measurement. Her nipple to nipple is 7. When you divide it by 2, that will give you 3.5. So plus half inch, that's 4 inches. So can you see my fabric is on fold. So I'm marking the same 4 inches here on the waistline. So I'm just going to go ahead and connect it with a straight line like this. So now on the bust line, I'll enter quarter of the bust measurement, which is 9 and 3/4. So on this part now, on the bust part, I'm going to mark half inch. This is the center front now, this is the side front. So I'll mark half inch on this point, and then half inch here also. So this is for my dart intake on the sides here. So now we'll come here to the underbust measurement. The underbust is 30 inches. 30 divided by 4, that is 7.5. So 7.5, and here I have 9 1/4. So the difference I have is what will determine my dart intake. So 7.5 minus 9 1/4, that's a total of 1 3/4. So that's a total of 1 3/4. Remember that I already have half inch here at this point, half inch here at this point. So 1 3/4 minus half inch, that will leave me with 1 1/4. So I'm going to be marking that 1 1/4 here. So here is my 1 1/4 inch. So you can see I marked it on the underbust, and I still mark the same thing on the waistline. So I'll use my ruler to straighten it out like this, like this. So now I want to curve this to meet the bust point. So at this bust point, I will go down by half of an inch and also go up by half of an inch. So I have a total of 1 inch here. So now I'll bring in my armhole curve and connect it. Take note of the placement. Can you see? It's meeting it at this half inch here. And then I'll also curve this part to come here. So can you see that? So now I have my curve. So now I want to connect it to the armhole, since we're making an armhole princess bustier. So here is the midpoint of my armhole. At this point, I will come down by half of an inch and then place my curve this way to meet this half inch mark that I have here. Can you see that? And then I'll place it this way. This is for the dart intake on the armhole. Can you see that? So we'll be cutting out this point as the same way we'll be cutting out this point. So this half inch I've taken here, I will come back to replace it here on the shoulder. So now you can see that our shoulder slant now is higher by half of an inch. So having done that now, I'm going to enter the measurements. So here I have the bust measurement, quarter of the bust measurement, which is 9 1/4 inch. I'll enter 2.5 inches. Half inch will be for turning my lining. I'll be making French finishes. So 2 inches is my actual sewing allowance. Here on the bust measurement, quarter of the bust measurement is 7.5. Remember that we have a dart intake here, and the total we have here, this is about 1 3/4 inch. Can you see? So you have to replace back that 1 3/4. And then I'll go ahead and add my 2.5 inches. So basically what I've done here is what I'm going to be doing here, because her underbust measurement and the waist measurement are all the same. That's 30, 30. So I'm just going to measure what I have here and bring it down here. So having done that, I'm just going to connect my markings. Can you see that? So now for the armhole, I'm going to be altering the side. This is the side and this is the center. I'll alter it a bit. By the time we cut out this one, the side piece tends to be shorter than the center piece. By the time we cut out our darts, the side piece tends to be shorter than the center piece. So here now, I'm going to be extending the armhole here. That's for the side piece. So whatever you have here as your dart intake, you can as well just bring it here. So which is 1 3/4. So here is my 1 3/4. So can you see the point here? So I'm just going to curve it this way. Can you see that? So this is what we have. Okay. So now our front and back length, I always say this, they are not the same. We have our bust in front. Of course, it will make it longer than the back half length. And this person, her difference is 1.5 inches. So that difference of 1.5 inches is what I'll be taking away from this side. So which is known as the bust dart or the side dart. So I'll come here and mark that 1.5 inches at the side here. So, but remember that this is where my sewing allowance started from. And you see, this is my 2.5 inches. So at this point is where I will mark my 1.5 inches. So this part that has the sewing allowance is basically straight, and then I'll connect it this way. Now you see that? So this is what we have for our side. So now come to the neckline. I'm going to be using a neck depth of, and then a neck width of same 4 inches. From the thumbnail, the neckline is quite high, but my client doesn't want hers to be high. So that is why I'm using 4 by 4. So that is it. So now we'll go ahead and cut out our neckline. Cut this part. I'm going to cut it while we watch. So here, can you see our dart? So can you see that this part, this is where the armhole stops for that's the front, but you can see that the side is coming outwards. So now I'm taking out the side dart, which is the difference between the front and the back. Okay. So now we have our pieces. So can you see that if we had not extended this armhole, you can see that there will be a shortage. And you see this is where the actual armhole stops, but you can see now that the front is actually longer. So by the time we join it, we can go ahead and trim our excess. So now we have our front pieces. So the next thing we'll do now is to cut our back piece. Our back is going to be a basic back, so I'm going to cut it and show us. So here is my basic back. So just in case you don't know how to draft this back, I'm going to be dropping the link of how to draft a basic body. It's just the basic back. So now I'm going to show us how to take away our bulge. This is our zip allowance of 1.5 inches, just like we had on the skirt, on the down part of the skirt. So here's our 1.5 inches. So this is the waistline. So on the waist here, I'm going to take away ½ inch, just the same way I took it away on the skirt pattern. You see, and I'm going to slant it all the way to the neckline like this. Can you see that? So I'm going to now trim it out. So now you can see that the back is no longer straight, it is slanted because it is inward. Our spinal cord is inward at the back. So now we want to make our back neckline. We want to have a square neckline at the back. Remember that I used a neck width of 4 inches for the front. I'm using the same 4 inches for the back. So here is my 4 inches. Take note that starting from the center back where my zip allowance, that's before, after the zip allowance rather. So 4 inches, I'll go down by a depth of 5.5. I don't want it too deep. So take note that I have 4 inches here. Here I'm going to be using 3.5. I want this back to be a little, don't want it just straight. I want it to be a little slanted like this. Can you see? So it just goes all the way out to the zip allowance. So this is going to be our square neckline for the back. Okay, so here we are. So now I'll go ahead and cut my lace. Remember that we're doing an illusion. We want the lace to be at the upper part, even though we're not going to be cutting the illusion to insert it into as a yoke. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out the lace first and then show us how to take care of this to give us that illusion. That's to bring it down to give us like the off shoulder kind of bustier. I've cut my lace. You can see I have the center piece and the two side pieces. So now bring down the to achieve the yoke that we want to have, or the illusion effect that I want to have, from this point here I will go up by half of an inch. So from this point I'll go up by half of an inch, and then from here the neckline I will come down. Remember I used a neck depth of 4 inches, so here I'll bring it down to 7 inches. So take note that I placed my tape from 4 inches. So the neck depth I'm using here is 7 inches. So I'll bring in my armhole curve like this and place it to achieve my sweetheart neckline. You see that? So I'll go ahead and cut out this part. So this is out of the way. So this is what I'm going to have under my yoke. There you see? So we'll have the illusion effect, but of course it's not getting to the neckline. So now I'll place this on my Ankara fabric and cut out our pieces and show us the next thing to do. So I've cut out my front pieces and see that this is my Ankara now. And then I have my sides also. I've done the same thing for the back. I've cut out the back, you can see. So now it's time for us to draft our sleeve. So to achieve our sleeve, this is what I have left of my fabric. You're going to multiply the armhole. Remember that the armhole we used was 7.5. So here the armhole is 7.5. So you multiply 7.5 by 2 and that will give us 15 inches. So you can see that we have our 15 inches. We just have half inch above the 15 inches, so which is fine. And take note that is on fold. So by the time we open, we're going to have 30 inches because the round armhole is 15 inches. That is why we have 7.5 in front and 7.5 at the back. So the length of the sleeve for the puffy part of the sleeve, the total length of this sleeve is going to be our actual length, which is 22 plus 4 inches, so that we can achieve that puffiness. So this puffy part is the part that we need. This part is the part we need to increase the length. Ordinarily this would have stopped as 18 inches, but now I'm going to be making it 22 inches long. This is for us to be able to push it up to achieve that puffiness. So I'm going to mark here on 22 inches. That's plus 4 inches, right? So here is my 22 inches. So now from this point, which is going to be our starting line from the sleeve for the sleeve, I'll come down by the calf's height, and her calf height is the bust divided by 12 plus half inch. So here we have about 3.6, so which is just 3.5. Let's say 3.5. So I'm just going to slant it this way. I'll place my ruler and slant it to meet the starting point of the sleeve this way. Once I do that, I'll now go ahead and get the midpoint. So by folding my tape this way, I'll get the midpoint. So here is my midpoint now. So at this upper part, I'll also come here to get the midpoint. And then I'll bring that same midpoint to this down part. You see that? So here at the upper part, I will come up by half of an inch. And then here, I'll come down by half of an inch. So I'll bring in my armhole curve and connect it like this. And then I'll also curve it to meet this point. Take note that it came from this point, I got the midpoint, and then I curved it this way. So you can see this is coming this way also. It is that simple. This is because the sleeve is going to be gathered. So I'm just going to subtract 2 inches from what I have here. Remember that is a straight sleeve. So I'm just going to subtract 2 inches from this measurement just to reduce this part a bit so that the upper part is fuller than the down part. I'm just going to connect it now using my straight line. So here we are. So it's that simple. So now we'll go ahead and cut out the sleeve. So I've cut the second sleeve. So now it's time for us to cut the flare, and then we'll go ahead and cut the part that's going to be between the flare. So I'm going to be making my flare a 180 flare. So now the round wrist of my client is 7 inches. I'm going to be dividing that 7 by 3.14, and that will give me about 2.2. So that 2.2 plus the length of the sleeve the flare sleeve I want to make, that's about 6 inches. So 2.2 plus 5 inches rather. 2.2 plus 5 inches, that will give me 7.2. So totally, let's just use 7.5. So now this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to fold, let me measure everything I have here. So here I have about 30 inches. So when I fold it into 2, I will have 15. So, and I'm going to fold it over like this again. Can you see that? So now this is it. I'll fold it into 2 like this, and then fold it over like this. Take note of what it is. I want to cut both sleeves together. I folded my leftover fabric into 2 because here I have the 15. Remember I said I'm working with 7.5. So this is my 15. So I'll fold it again like this, and then fold it over like this. So from here, can you see? I have 7.5 inches. Remember I said that the radius I'm looking for is 2.2 inches, and this is going to be where my 2.2 will be. So I'll go ahead and mark it. So now we'll go ahead and mark the length of the flare, which is 5.5. So here, now we'll go ahead and cut. can you see? Then we have two flares. So this will give us the round arm of my client, which is 7 inches. So it will give me plus my sewing allowance. Can you see? So I have a total of about 4 inches. Half inch will be what I'll be using to join it at the down part here. So to get the part in between the flare and the puffy sleeve, I folded my lace fabric. Remember I said that the wrist is 7 inches. The upper part where the balloon connects to, that part is 9 inches. So 9 divided by 2, that will give me 4.5. So here is my 4.5. So I'll add 1.5 inches, and then the length I want to have is 4 inches. I'll be marking on 5 inches because I'll use half inch to join it to the balloon and half inch to sew it to the flare. So here we are. So 7 divided by 2, that's 3.5 plus 1.5. So I'm just going to use my straight ruler to connect it like this, and then we'll go ahead and cut it out. So you can see what we have. This is the upper part and this is the down part. So I'll cut the second one and show us. I've cut the second one. So this is what we're going to have. We'll gather our sleeve this way. Can you see? And then we'll attach our flare like this. So we have come to the end of our cutting part. In my next video, I'm going to be showing us how to stitch our pieces together to achieve this lovely dress. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please kindly like this video, share with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And also put on your notification bell so that you get notified once I post a new video. Thank you for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.